What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Today, we're going to be classifying our data in Databricks. Now, there are a ton of very real use cases for this, but let me give you an example that I have personally seen myself and one that we're actually kind of going to be working through in this lesson. Let's say there's a hospital, they're not super organized, they just put all of their data in PDFs and they put it into a folder on a local machine. I know that sounds insane to a lot of us data people, but I have seen hospitals do this. And what they do is they would then manually go through these files and then they would type it into a computer later on or have somebody do it. But this hospital just got really far behind and then they realized they weren't categorizing at all if it was a claims data, if it was a medical record or what it was. And the files are just piling up and it's taking a lot of time just to go through them. Now they can go manually into each one and then put it into a different folder. And that's going to take forever. I mean, genuinely weeks or months of work just to categorize and separate all these files out. But what if they could just drop all their files into one place, write a tiny bit of code, and it categorizes all these files for them at one time? I would imagine that they would really like that, especially because it's on Databricks Free Edition, and they can do this for free, and you can too. And that's what we're going to be doing in this lesson. So let's not waste any time. Let's jump right in my screen and take a look. Now, in our previous lessons, we were using AI parse document and AI extract, and we're able to extract the exact data. That's not exactly what we're going to be doing in this lesson. Let's come right over here and we're going to go to our IDP in default in our YouTube lesson. Now, right now we only have one file in here, and for classifying and categorizing data, that's not a lot. So let's actually upload to this volume and let's browse and bring in more PDFs. Right here, I have a ton of other ones, and these are all just a bunch of kind of different styles of PDFs, and I can open up one or two of them so you can see what they look like. But we have lots of different PDFs. Let's actually come down here really quick and let's just look at one of these. This is an administrative document. Just has some text in here, but we're gonna wanna classify this. Let's pull another one. Let's look at this claims data. So medical claim summary with the patient name, the claim ID, and some information as well. And let's open up a lab report. So in this lab report, we have some results, where they got it, what the actual test was, and who the patient was. So we have text information. Now these are just sample files, but you can imagine them being a lot more complex with real hospitals. Now, let's get rid of this and let's come over and we're gonna go back to our workspace. We're gonna go down to our IDP series and we're actually gonna copy this real quick, just so we have it down here. We don't have to, but I'm gonna do it just so we have it down here and we can actually see it. But we're just gonna read in all of the files that are at this location. So let's go ahead and run this. Now, believe it or not, we're gonna come back up and get one more piece of code. And this is just because this was kind of an easier one. We were just using the AI parse document. And if you didn't watch that lesson, I highly recommend it. But we're using AI parse document to look at the content within each of these. So now let's come right down here and we're just gonna take a look at what's in here. So we're gonna say, select everything from this parsed structured document. So we read all of our files in, then we just AI parsed all the content that was within each of those files, and now we're looking at it. So we're just getting everything set up. So now we have all these different file paths, and let's pull this down. And this would be each of the PDFs that we're dropping in there. Imagine this is like 1,000 or 2,000 different PDFs, which it absolutely could be. Then each one of these are gonna have a specific name or a unique name, which is the file path within our catalog over here. Now within this parsed content, you can go in, you can look, and you can see here's what is in every single one of these documents. So we can go into this lab report. We can see our patient name right here. The test was a comprehensive metabolic panel. We got the test results right here. And what we're gonna be doing is we're going to basically use the contents within each of these documents to use the AI classify to read it in and classify it within the buckets that we specify. So let's come right down here because I wanna keep that just so I can see it. But we could have used that if we wanted, but I'm gonna keep everything so I can see this and I can see this parsed content. I'm gonna keep everything. Now we're gonna come over here. We're gonna put a comma and we're gonna say AI underscore classify. Now there's two things that we have to pass through, two parameters. The first is just the content that we want it to read in. So we're gonna say parsed underscore content. And then we have to specify what we want here. So What do we want it to categorize it into? Now we have a lot of different things, but let's come down here and let's give it a few different categories. We're gonna say medical claim, but then we're also gonna add in medical invoice, lab, report, clinical note, or let's just add in other. Now, if we try to run this just like this, we should get an error here because we actually have two things that we aren't doing right. And of course, you guessed it, it's gonna be a data types issue. It's always a data types issue. The first thing is that we cannot resolve AI classify due to the first parameter requiring a string data type. So all we have to do is cast this as a string. So we'll say cast, and then we'll come right here, we'll say as string. So that one should be fixed. Let's go ahead and run this. You guessed it as well. The second one requires an array type. Again, super easy to fix. All we have to do is put array. So now that should be fixed. Let's go ahead and run this. So let's pull this down just a little bit and let's scroll over. So it looks like, and I actually want to, I'm just gonna say as label because that is really long. And yeah, let's run this one more time. That's just a really long, and I'm gonna bring it over so we can see exactly what we have. Let's come over here. Let's bring this all the way back over. And so for our sample medical claim, which is our very first file that we were working with for the past several lessons, it's gonna label that as a medical claim, the claims as a medical claim, the lab report as a lab report, clinical note as clinical note, administrative doc as well as a clinical note, and then an invoice as a medical invoice. Now, if we came, let's go look at that administrative doc just to see what's in there. I guess I could see why it would classify that as a clinical note. Now, it doesn't surprise me. It really is just trying to fit it into one of these categories. And so if we do have administrative docs that we want it to be in its own category, we should absolutely specify that. We could even come up here and let's just try this. Let's try administrative document. And let's try running this. And of course, it's gonna pick up on that. It's gonna classify it properly. And so the buckets that we put in here are really important. This is what determines how it reads it in, what bucket or category it's actually trying to classify that file as. The more specific, the more options that we have, the more it's gonna be able to determine which one is the correct one. So this is how you can use AI Classify quite simply in order to classify and categorize your data. Now, if you wanted to take this a step further, you can go into these job runs and you can create an ETL process where you do all of these, you get it to this stage, and then you say, okay, take this file and put it into a different place in our catalog. That's how you're gonna actually separate and categorize all these files. And so this is a very real use case. It doesn't just have to be with medical data, it could be anything that you have. You're able to read in the contents of that file and categorize it appropriately. If you haven't already, I highly recommend getting Databricks Free Edition to follow along with this series, as well as just do this with your data. It's completely free to use. It's an amazing platform. I've been using it for years, so I can't recommend it enough. I will have a link in the description if you wanna go and sign up and create your own account. With that being said, I hope you learned something, and if you did, be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.